Yet another malicious attack we can look at that you'll probably run into after doing a lot of packet captures and analysis on attacks is an ICMP attack. Now, as we know from our earlier discussions, ICMP, or Internet Control Message Protocol, is a very useful protocol and it has very useful utilities. The most useful one, of course, being the ping command that we use to troubleshoot network communications issues with. Now, ICMP, unfortunately, can also be used by malicious people to conduct scans, try to be a little bit stealthy and conduct network scans to map our networks. And it can also be used for denial of service attacks. Now, as you know, ICMP is a connectionless protocol. It doesn't require a response from the host, although in network mapping, a response can be useful, but it doesn't require one to work. And in fact, ICMP, unfortunately, most hosts will respond to it by default. So you can use that default behavior to actually conduct attacks. Now, ICMP is often allowed through border devices, unfortunately. So you might want to start looking at your border devices, such as your external routers and firewalls, and start limiting ICMP into the internal network from those devices. Now, there's several different kinds of attacks that we can see that we can conduct using ICMP. First of all, we can conduct various scans. There's different ICMP scans you can use to elicit responses from hosts, to find out if ports are open or closed, to get responses to see if those hosts are up or not. So it can be used to map networks, and sometimes you don't even have to scan the ports. Now, the ICMP scans may use different techniques, uses maybe a TCP SYN attack, or SYN scan rather, on port 80, or an ACK scan. But ICMP scans can also use UDP, and a properly configured ICMP scan is very hard to detect. An IDS has to be really configured well to detect the various intricate ICMP scans that you can use. Now, a couple of other attacks might be an ICMP redirect. Now, this involves sending timed messages, and you have to get the timing right on a network to the different gateways. And what happens is you send the traffic to the gateways and to hosts to redirect traffic. Basically, you're causing hosts and gateways to change. So what you would do then is cause a host to send the gateway information to you, and then you would forward it on to the correct gateway. So in effect allows a man-in-the-middle attack. And there's also such thing as a Smurf attack, and this is a very clever attack where a hacker spoofs an ICMP echo request, basically a ping. It sends a ping, or a lot of pings actually, to the broadcast address. It doesn't send it to a particular host, it sends it to the broadcast address of the network. Now what happens is every host on the network receives it. So, since they're all configured to respond to ICMP, they're going to reply back. Well, where are they going to reply back to? They're all going to reply back to the spoofed source address, which is your victim's address. So this victim, who hasn't done anything, hasn't sent out any ICMP packets, is going to suddenly receive a bunch of ICMP echo replies from all the other hosts on the network. And this is going to be done a lot in volumes probably numbering into the hundreds of thousands of packets. So this will eventually overwhelm the victim and bring it down. Another attack that we don't see too much often anymore is the ping of death. And it's kind of the original ICMP attack. It's called the POD. It involves sending millions sometimes of oversized ping packets to a host, causing it to crash. Now, we've looked at this when we've talked about excessive packets and oversized packets, and that's really what the ping of death is. Now, this attack is largely obsolete because most operating systems should be patched now to avoid this kind of attack. Most of them won't respond to this. If a host responds to it, you know it's either an older host or a host that's not patched. Now let's go ahead and look at a ping scan. We're going to use Nmap in Backtrack to ping scan an XP host using ICMP, and you can kind of see what this looks like and what the Wireshark Capture will look like when we do it. Okay, we're in Backtrack, and I've already typed out what we're going to do. If you look in the command shell, we're going to run an Nmap scan against the XP host, and we're going to specify a ping scan, and we're going to use the ACK. And the reason actually is a switch that gives us a lot more of a verbose detail. So we're actually going to run this. Now I'm also running a capture in Wireshark on both the Backtrack and the XP boxes. And we'll take a look at the capture when we run the scan. So let's go ahead and run it really quick. So we're starting Nmap. We'll let it run a little bit. Okay, we got a response from 30.10 and we received an ARP response. What happens is if the host is on the local network that you're scanning, you'll receive an ARP response basically, so you'll get the MAC address. And that tells you that the IP address is up. That's only after you get a response from an ACK on there. So let's go ahead and look at our Wireshark Capture and what we got here. We actually got a broadcast back, and this is on our the computer that we were running the scan from. So we got a broadcast, an ARP went out, and an ARP came back. So we got that reply back. Now let's go and look at what we got on the Windows XP side. Okay, we got some interesting traffic here. Now we got an ARP broadcast also, but we didn't get much in the way of a reply here, because all we really did was send some ACK. So you can see that this wasn't detected by Windows XP, so that was kind of interesting. Wireshark did not pick this up, and we probably should have gotten something, but what you have to keep in mind is sometimes you need to configure your hosts and Wireshark to collect the right traffic. So we may have gotten traffic in other circumstances, but we did not in this case. But that's essentially how to run a ping scan from Nmap, how to use a ping scan using a ACK request, or an ACK packet rather, going out to run a ping sweep.